girl, Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business, but you were
Get ready for this.
and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Bebe Business Show. This is the show where you get all the information, tips, knowledge, advice on anything and everything to do with business. The whole aim is to make sure that you're successful in business and you become financially free. I'm your host, Bebe Clement, and I run a group of small companies in the UK. I'm also the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, and you should have the details of that book on the bottom hand side of your screen. I want to thank you for joining us again today, and for all your kind comments and all your feedback. Keep them coming, because it helps us shape the show into one that you find even more useful. I also want to give a shout out to a very special lady who has been with us from the very start of the show. She makes sure that she logs in every week, and even the times that she can't, she always calls me and asks me for the podcast. And so I want to take this opportunity to say hi or hola to Rika Renee Ramsey Nicole, because she's all the way in Spain. Hi, Rika Renee. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, this is a young lady. She's in her 20s. And I'm just so pleased that young people are connecting with the show. And can I encourage you, those of you who have teenagers and graduates at home, please ask them to connect with the show, because if our generation had programs like this that were informative and educative, we would have become financially free a lot earlier. And some of the financial mess that we're in, we wouldn't be in. So it's important that our kids become financially literate at a very young age. The world is changing. The whole concept of a job for life, that's gone. And so it's important that we teach our kids how to develop different income streams in order to become financially free. So once again, welcome to the show if you're joining us for the first time. And for those of you who are returning, thank you once again. Thank you for giving up your time to support the show, and I'm so glad that you're getting stuff out of it. Now, 3 weeks ago, I started a series on developing passive income to create wealth. And I did that because it's very clear that if working harder was what made you wealthy, we'd have been rich by now, because most of us are very hardworking. But the rich don't work harder necessarily. They work smarter. So we've got to play them at their own game and work smarter. And one of the ways in which they work smarter is that rather than working hard for their money, they make their money work hard for them. So we've got to do the same thing. So one of the ways in which you can do that is by developing passive income. So for those of you who haven't been on the show for the last couple of weeks, what is passive income? Passive income is income that requires little or no effort on your part, or income that you get from doing something just once and it just keeps on paying you out. So for example, writing a book, the intellectual property that you get from writing a book, or writing a song. Dolly Parton was forever thanking God for Whitney Houston, because that song that she wrote, I Will Always Love You, she made millions from when Whitney Houston sang that song. And other people have recorded it as well. But Whitney Houston just shot her profit into the stratosphere. So these are the kind of things that you can do. Last week, we spoke about how you can develop passive income through investing and trading. And I'd like to thank my guest for the show. That was Dr. Remy Banjoko, who was joining us all the way from Rwanda. Thank you so much, Remy, for all your insight and your input. The feedback has been phenomenal. A lot of people are beginning to look at this now. This is not something they considered before, but they can see now that you don't have to be an expert, a money expert, or to work on Wall Street in order to trade and invest and to make money passively that way. So today we're going to be looking at another area of passive income, and that's property. So today's show is called Growing Your Passive Income Through Property Development. And in order to help me with this, I always choose people who are better than me, more informative than me, wiser than me, sharper than me to come on the show. We always have really, really good guests on this show. So it is my pleasure and my honor to welcome two very special guests. Bimbo Sage and Kunle Davis Nadi. Are you there?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
Welcome
I'm
to the show. Welcome to Bebe Means Business. So welcome to the show. All right.
Thank you.
So just to let our listeners know that this is a live show and it's an interactive one. So we want to hear your views on anything that we discuss here. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. There are no stupid questions. There's nothing like that. So don't be afraid to ask anything you ever wanted to know about property. That's why we have these kind of people on the show so they can answer your questions. You can hook us up on this show by going to Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @StarRadioUK. Or you can text or WhatsApp us on 07539 661 744. That number again, 07539 661 744. Or indeed, you can email us at info@StarRadioUK. Or indeed, if you're watching us through Facebook Live, just type your questions and we will answer them. We take a break just before 2 o'clock and then we answer all the questions just after 2. Okay, so once again, welcome to my special guest. Let's start like this. If you tell us your stories, ladies first. So Bimbo, if you'd like to go first, tell us how you got into to property development.
okay. Hi everyone, my name is Bimbala Saige. I've been investing in property since I bought my first property in 2005 when I just finished uni and I wanted a place to stay. I was living in a council estate, and at the time the government had quite a number of incentives for people to give up their property, well, their flats, and get into investing or buying their own home. So I did that in 2005. And then 2008, when I got married, I came across, so 3 things happened to me in 2008. I got married. I started to change my pattern of work. So I started contracting, supposed to be in a full permanent contract employment. And then also I came across a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which basically talks a lot. It talks a lot about, being employed, being a business owner, self-employed, and so on and so forth. So the concept of passive income and property was something that I picked up from then on. So what I then did was I just went out looking for properties to buy, and so I did it the way everyone else does it. You go find a property, raise as much money, and then buy your first one. But then I did that, but then I realized that I was going to soon run out of money very quickly, because I didn't know anything else other than save up, buy, and then wait for the money to grow. So I came across another company that were offering education in property, so I went on to educate myself, and I wanted to mention that because it's very, very important. You don't know what you don't know, and what you don't know is going to cost you a lot of money. So I went and paid a huge amount of money, got myself educated, and I started that way. So whilst I was doing that, I was working full-time as a business analyst, working for really good companies, and then eventually I found myself in financial services. I worked in various banks in the City of London. And I think at 2016, I realized that I wanted to do this full time because I was seeing the benefit of my passive income growing, my money working very hard for me. I also realized as well that the traditional way of buying property wasn't going to get me to my goals, because I wanted to achieve so much in a very short space of time. And I understood that I started to learn a lot about delayed gratification, putting your money into things that would generate you a lot of money, and then at some point in the near future. So in 2016, I started to think of leaving my job in the city, so concentrate full time in properties. As of then, I had done quite a bit of the different strategies that we'll probably talk about later in the show. So by the regular family-led commercial conversions, buying in auctions, refurbishing, HMO, and so on and so forth. So eventually I gave myself a target from 2016, and then by 2018, I escaped the rat race. So I left a very high-paying contract role in the City of London. I was working then as a market risk analyst with an investment bank, and I gave that all up so I could concentrate on doing property full-time. I've been doing this full-time now in the last 2 years, and it's been fantastic. Obviously, it's got its own challenges, being a self-employed property developer. But it's a decision that I'm so grateful that I made, and I don't think I would go back the other way. It's learned so much in the last few years, and I've done so much as well in properties. When I look back at what I've done and achieved or my experience, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize I've done this much.
Okay. All right. So that was Bimbo. And thank you so much for that intro. There are a number of things that you said that I really want to emphasize. One is the fact that you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I think that has been that book has been an eye opener for many others. So I want to seize this opportunity to recommend it to our listeners who have never read that book, alongside, of course, reading mine. But yes, read Rich Dad Poor Dad as well. Robert Kiyosaki. It really is enlightening and educative. Then you spoke about how you went and got yourself educated, and then you used a phrase I think is really important, that you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. Too many people jump on a bandwagon when it comes to developing income or trying to create wealth. They jump on the bandwagon, they hear that their friend has done something and they think, oh, my friend has been successful on it, I said, so I'm going to do it as well, without getting the proper education. I cannot overemphasize the importance of becoming financially literate. And for those of you who are of the faith, who think that, a quick prayer and a fasting and having your pastor pray for you and all that is going to make you rich overnight. I have some bad news for you. As one of my mentors says, one of my destiny helpers says, she says, God is a miracle worker, but he is not a magician. So if that's what you're hoping for, I think you're backing up the wrong truth. You must become financially literate and get to know as much as you can about the industry that you're hoping to go into. Your listeners, you'll also notice that Bimbola had a transition plan. She was working as an analyst. She had a very good job, but she had a transition plan. So she didn't immediately just go in one day and then chuck her resignation letter at her boss. She had a good plan to work at that for a while she'd already started doubling in property. And it was only when she found that actually, yes, this is sustainable, that she decided to give up what was a very good job. So again, you have to be strategic about this whole wealth creation thing. Okay, Bimbola, thank you very much. We're going to come back to you. But can I hear from our second guest? Please, could you introduce yourself and tell us your journey so far?
Hi, my name is Clement. My journey, I wouldn't say is as colorful as Bimbo's, but I went to University of Lagos, and I remember after I did my final exams, myself and a group of other friends who had not, finished their final exams, we were just sitting down one day talking. All of them were architects. I didn't study architecture. And I remember that day, just jokingly, we said, oh, you know what, when we graduate, we need to set up a company called Project X. And Project X would be, purely to develop properties and then sell on. Property development in Nigeria then is not what it is today that we know. And after that conversation, nothing happened for a number of years. And I remember one day, some years later, I think about 4 or 5 years later, there's a property on Ozumbambadiwe in Lagos, then vacant land, backing off onto the lagoon. I know the family that owns it, and I said to them, what are you guys doing with this land? I was speaking to the son of the man that owns it. He says he doesn't know what his father wants to do. I said, well, I'm sure I can find people that can develop this thing for you. And the guy goes, oh, really? How? I said, don't worry. I mean, if your dad is interested, I'm sure I can come up with something. And, jokingly, we started this conversation, and the man goes, oh, yeah, if you could build a shopping mall there. Now, I don't know if anyone knows it. There used to be a Mr. Biggs on Ozumbambadiwe years ago.
This is, sorry, most of our viewers are based in the UK. They might never have been to Nigeria. So he's talking about Nigeria here. Go on.
Yes, and then we developed that property shopping mall. Mr. Biggs took the whole ground floor, paid for 5 years, used the money to complete the rest of the property. Now that was how I started. It was all stroke of luck. Because I did have a few uncles and aunties that I could run to. That were willing to put the money together and also get the connection. But fast track, I came to the UK, did a master's, and bought my first property. I believe it was in 1997. And I still knew that I had the passion for real estate development. I'm not much of someone that was interested in buying lets and all that. I was swimming on the other side of the ocean, and um,
Sorry, what side is that?
which is development.
Right, okay.
But buy a property in auction and add value to it, or buy a semi-detached property that's got massive grounds on the side, create an additional dwelling there, or buy a big property, five, 6 bed detached house, convert it, by extending to the side and to the back, and end up having, say, 5 apartments within the house. But my background is IT. I'm an IT consultant, and so there was a period where I didn't have work, and I'd waited 2 months, 3 months, no job, and then I know I had this friend. He's a lot younger than I am, but in this country, he's arguably the most successful property developer I know, who's a Nigerian.
What's his name?
And this guy was doing things that was blowing my mind off. So I remember then I'd wake up in the morning and I'd go to his house 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'll sit down with him till about 7, 8 at night. I would watch him when he goes to scout for properties. I would watch him when he goes to tender for properties. I would watch him when he negotiates with contractors. I would watch him whilst he does whatever he does, and I did that for 6 months. Monday to Saturday, going to his house. And some people were like, why are you always hanging out with me? I said, look, guys, just leave me alone. I know what I'm doing now. So for me, apprenticeship, pays off.
Wow.
Apprenticeship pays off. You see someone doing, what you want to do, right? And you can see evidence that this guy is onto something that you have no clue about. Bite the bullet, walk up to the person, say, look, mate, can you help me? I want to study under you. And, most decent people, right, would have no problems with you doing that, And this guy took me on board, and what I know today in the real estate as it concerns the United Kingdom was solely due to that one person. And and after that, I've gone on to just do a whole host of things. Now that doesn't mean I didn't make mistakes down the line. I still made mistakes.
Don't tell us about those ones yet. We're going to come to me.
Yeah, but the point is, when you learn right, even though you make mistakes, right, there's that thing you can fall back to say, oh, hang on a minute, what did I miss? And then pick back up again, and you're up and running. So in a nutshell, that's my story. That's where I am. I'm still hungry for development. I'm still scouting for properties, and doing all I can do to help people that need help as well.
And what a story it is. What a story.
Thank you.
Enough respect from me, honestly. The fact that you were that young and that forward thinking. I mean, that the whole story about you developing that land is just amazing. Really amazing to me, because I mean, how many young people were thinking like that? That's really good. A couple of other things I wanted to pick up on and emphasize to my listeners is the whole concept of being mentored. In whatever field you want to go into in relation to wealth creation, you must be mentored. And just like Clement said, go and look for somebody who has made a success at what it is that you want to do, and humble yourself. Clement said the guy that he went to meet is a lot younger than him. Yeah. Humble yourself and go and learn whatever it is that you need to learn. It doesn't matter who the person is, as long as they're doing what you want to do and they're doing it successfully, then go sit at their feet and learn what you need to learn. Too many of us are focused on the money. I've had people who will say, well, I can't go and do that because during that time, nobody's going to pay me. What you will learn during that period will pay for everything else. So you might as well just do what needs to be done and go and learn. But you must have mentors. I've said that many times on this show, and I'm so glad that you emphasize that as well. Okay, really good introductions there. I hope our listeners are getting inspired that neither of these people were born with a silver spoon in their mouth, one. Neither of them have, are unicorns. They don't have horns coming out of their head. They're just ordinary people like you and I who honed in on something that they were passionate about and they wanted to do, and they found a way to do it. So you can do the same. All right, so guys, supposing I want to start today, I want to get into property development today. Where do I start?
I'd let Bimbo go first.
Okay.
So I suppose first thing is your level of experience. So if you're new into the game, if you're new into investing into properties, then you want to start small. And I think it's very important to know that when you're new into something, you want to start small. Like we said, you will make mistakes along the way. And when you're new, you want your mistakes. Obviously, mistake cost money, so you want your mistakes to not be to be the one thing that wipes you out completely out of business. So I would say start small. So start small could be something as easy as you buy a property and you just do a refurbishment. You just refurbish the entire space. That's starting small. If you're new into the game, you buy a property that is old, needs a lot of work, change the bathroom, change the kitchen, perhaps apply to the council to extend the back, nothing too major, and then you start to build your experience that way. Obviously, when you're into property, there are things like, the type of property, location, the price. There's a whole lot of stuff that you need to already know before you actually take that first step.
Right, so let me stop you there. So as regards, because we hear this all the time, location. As regards location, if you're going to get into property development, what am I supposed to be looking out for? Transport links? What am I supposed to be looking out for?
Do you want me to answer that, or?
Yeah. Do you want to go?
Okay, I could do that. It depends on a number of things. So if you want to rent out, for instance, right, it's good for you to look at things like station, hospitals, schools, and things like that, if you want to rent out. But if it's, something you want to live in, right, most people, would not want to live very close to, like for me now, I wouldn't want to live close to a station, right? I don't mind driving 10, 15 minutes to get to the station. But most people that are renting, if it's a student, a young guy who's just started work, he wants to save his money. So he doesn't mind walking 10 minutes to the station, So it depends on a number of things. So I would say to you, spread your planning, right? Do you want to be someone that rents properties out, right? Then, location in terms of stations, schools, like if you've got good schools in that neighborhood, right, you're certain to find a lot of young couple come to look for properties there because they want to put the children in very good schools, right? But if it's a family that their children are like 15, 16, 17, right, they want to go further into town. So it depends on a number of things, But for someone who is a new starter and you just want to rent your property out, I'll just say look for something very close to the station. Look for something close to the high street. Look for something close to the big grocery stores, the Asda's and the Sainsbury's. That would help ensure that you get your property let out really soon.
Okay. Now, there's one question I was going to ask. I hope this doesn't sound snobbish in any way because that's not the intent. But I understand that if you buy a property that kind of backs onto or is very close to council property, that lowers the price. Is that true?
Not necessarily. I think the challenge that you tend to have is, so if I were to buy a property and I go into the viewing and I find that it's quite close to local housing and council properties, the one thing I'm looking for is, is it a safe area? What kind of people live here? But actually, for me as an investor, I actually don't mind such property because it tells me the kind of people that would want to live there. So, for example, I bought a property recently, and the intention was to turn into multi-room lets. And that particular property was close enough to a lot of council or old local authority houses. And for me, it was a perfect location because I know that the people that live there are people that probably might not be able to afford bigger 2-3 bedrooms, but they can relatively afford a roomlet. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. And I mean, when you look around as well, there's so many developments now that are close enough to a lot of council properties, and by virtue of that, it automatically appreciates even the local authority housing as well. So I don't think it's a bad thing all the time. I think it's just a case of knowing the demographics of the area. Does it fit in with your strategy, the kind of tenants that you're looking to pull in? Yeah.
Okay, so that's important, guys, that if you're going to go into property development, you need to be very clear in your mind what kind of tenants you're trying to attract. And that will be a determining factor as to where you buy. You also spoke about multiple occupancy. I understand there's some change in legislation in relation to that. Can either of you shed some light on that?
So HMO, it's called HMO, it's house in multiple occupancy. And for a lot of people, it's literally, the basic English is room by room let. So it's a case where different families, different people from different households come and share a house, share the same bathroom, perhaps, or kitchen. It's just room by room let, basically. In terms of change, it's a very highly regulated strategy. And I think the reason why it's highly regulated is so that because the government is interested in the health and safety of the occupants. They're interested in the housing standard. They don't want a situation where you pack people, if a house can only take 5-6 people, they don't want a situation where you've got 12 people living there. And typically when people live in those sorts of housing, unless they are young professionals or students, it's typically people that are on lower income, so they don't want the landlords to take advantage of them. So it's highly regulated. But in terms of the changes recently is to do with licensing. Everyone owns one of the license the property. It's literally the government coming in to make sure that there's enough health and safety consideration. If there was a fire, the fire were to break out, do we have everything in place to protect the occupants of the property? It's a case. I mean, if anyone, for those that are in the UK, you remember the Grenfell Tower. Yeah, that is the reason why the government was very hot on HMOs, because what had happened in the Grenfell Tower in this day and age possibly would not happen. Yeah, okay.
That's cool. Okay, just want to do a quick shout out to a couple of our listeners. Alexander Nana Agem Amalku. Thank you very much for listening. I understand you're having a problem with the volume. Volume seems fine by everybody else's standard. I'm not sure whether it's your end. Also want to shout out to Temitayo Fefa. Thank you very much for listening in. Hope you're enjoying the show. Okay, next question. And we're going to quickly do this one because we're going to take a break in a minute. Actually, you know what? Let's take a break now. We'll come back at 2 o'clock and then I'll pass the next question to Clement. Thank you very much, my guest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go away. Back up to the break.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Bebe Means Business Show. And today we're speaking about how to grow passive income through property development. I have two special guests on the show, Bimbola Osagye and Kunle Nadi. We've been talking about property investment, and I've had some questions come in that I'm going to throw open to our guests. The first question says, Dear Bebe, wonderful show as ever. Thank you so much. Glad you like it. I too would like to develop passive income, and property rental seems to be a good way to develop it. My question is, given the economic uncertainties, is this a good time to get into property business, or should I wait until things stabilize? Kunle, you want to go for that?
That's a concern a lot of people do have. The thing is, there's never a right time or wrong time to go into property investment, right? Never. So if you have the money now, right, I'd say go for it.
Okay.
Go for it, because there are quite a lot of incentives now. I.e., if you buy your property now, your interest rate, your mortgage rate is quite low, right? And if you're smart, you can lock it in for 4 years or 5 years, right?
Wow.
So that just ensures that whatever mortgage you're paying for the next 5 years, it's at almost 1 or 2%. You get, which is a no-brainer. And then the government is also giving stamp duty, holidays, and all sorts of things, which also helps you in terms of the savings you make towards the purchase of the property, right? And if you start now, you might be lucky in the next 3, 4, 5 years, a property you bought for 300 might be worth, say, 500,000. So I would say to you, if you have the money now, right, and you know what you're doing, go for it.
Okay, you heard it here first, guys. There's never a good time to go, and there are lots of incentives that we might not see again. So now is the time to jump. Okay, the second question is this. Dear Bebe, your show has been an inspiration to me and my family. Glad to hear it. And this is from Dio. Says, I have read your book twice already. Oh, good. I've read your book twice already. I can't wait for the sequel. Have you published the sequel? No, I haven't. If not, when will the sequel be published? Well, I'm writing my second book, but it's not necessarily a sequel, but it is to do with wealth creation again. So hopefully by the end of the year, that should be out. So Dio, thank you very, very much for that. Okay. The third question is, thank you for your advice on tackling our cash flow challenges. We reached out to our suppliers, and most were more than pleased to vary their terms to allow for extra time to pay for supplies. Good. I'm glad that you had the conversation, which came as a shock to us. You see, everything is negotiable. In this climate, everything is negotiable. And what he's referring to there is in the last week, I was talking about if you owe your suppliers money, don't hide from them. Sit down and have the conversation with them. Let them know what you can afford to pay and come to some kind of arrangement. And we had thought that they would be reluctant, as we are sure that they have financial pressures as well. But by dissuading us from my original plan of simply refusing to pay on time, but engaging with them to assist us with our cash flow challenges, we have retained a good relationship with our suppliers. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that. Thank you for your wise counsel, David. Oh, thank you, David. I'm so glad to hear that. Your business will be able to stand the test of time. Great. Okay, there's one more question, but I'm not sure if I'm going to take it because I want to still continue with our guests. Now, how do I raise the capital? If I wanted to get into property development, can you take this? How do I raise the capital? I sometimes hear about guys like you talk about, oh, you can buy properties with no deposit down. Is that true, or is that just something you guys say?
Okay, it is true, right? I've experienced it, right? But also there are various things that you could do to help yourself out. Now, what I tell people who are starting, I have a few people that I mentor, and I say to them, I say, you know what? Get 3, 4 of you, right? Come together, right? It might be 15 grand per person, or 20 grand per person, or someone might come in with 30, and the other person comes in with say 15. Now you set up a moving company, a company that is just meant for just the old essence to deliver that transaction, right? And based on how much you've invested, you get equity, right, in the stake of that property, right? So when you sell, so Bimbo, if Bimbo comes in with 15%, 15,000, Bimbo can get say 20% of it. You come in with say 30, you can get say 40%. I come in with 5, I get say 2%. And at the end of it, when the property is developed and sold, right, you take your money and you go away. But guess what? You did not have money enough to do it as one person, but the strength of numbers has been able to help you purchase a property, right? Put your name in the company's house as someone who is credible, right? Also, right, in the mortgage, system, your name has gone there as well. Then another thing is that you've acquired knowledge. So if you say you're waiting till when you have that 100,000, you might wait for 5, 6 years, right? But if you say, you know what, I've got 10,000, let me shop around. Oh, Bimbo, you're a dealer, I've got 10 grand. How much do you have? I've seen this property, right? This property is 70, and I come across things like that. This property is 70 grand, right? We can even do it without going to the bank for a loan, right? I've got 10. How much do you have? Can we get somebody else that has got this? And it's going to cost us 20,000 to do, but once we finish, we're making say 100,000 profit. Do you understand? It's a no-brainer. You go for it. So yes, it's possible, but always try and see if you can come up with numbers. It helps long way.
Okay. Now I know this is something Bimbo is very passionate about, something that she does, and this is something that I harpen on about a lot. I think one of the things that has held, particularly the Black community in the UK, back financially, not just in relation to property investment, but in relation to wealth creation, is the fact that everybody is doing their own little thing in their own little corner of the world. And guys, that is not working. It has not worked for us. It's never going to work for us. The sooner we realize this and we get with the program, the better. We need to start coming together. We need to start pooling our finances together. Otherwise, we're not going to make financial impact. We're not. We're just not. There's no way around it. So at the end of the show, Bimbo, I'd like you to talk a little bit about what you are doing, because I know that you are doing this. But whatever area you're thinking about going into business with, use other people's money. Go and look for people who are reputable. Not everybody is a fraudster. Not everybody lacks integrity. Look for people with a proven, reliable, reputable track record and join forces with them and grow your money quicker. Otherwise, you're going to die struggling on your own. I can't emphasize that enough. I really can't.
Can I also add quickly?
Yeah.
Right. The UK has got a very robust legal system.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Use it to your advantage. Because you see, don't be scared about, this person is going to dupe me or not. No, just look for a lawyer, right, who will sit down, listen to all of you, and say, okay, you know what, I'll come up with your document. Nobody can run away with anybody's money. It's not going to happen, And if you can understand that, you save yourselves a lot of heartache. A 10-year journey, you can bring it down to 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Bimbo, you want to talk a little bit about the legal process, because I know you have a lawyer that's helped you with that.
Yeah. In fact, I feel like jumping when you started talking as well. I just can't overemphasize the importance of collaborating. We all know the saying, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go with others. There is so much power in bringing and working with people. And just like you said, people, no one can run away with your money. I heard that, people, I lost money. How did you lose your money? So anyway, just going back to working together. So and you said with the legals, the standard way of doing it, obviously, from a limited company or a partnership, whichever way you want to do it, preferably a limited company, and then everyone becomes shareholders in the company, and then you have a lawyer that then draws up the documents. Some of the things that I've done, where I've worked with other people, we tend to have a deed of trust. We also have an agreement, a shareholder agreement, or any sort of agreement that works for us. Sit together with a lawyer, we go through the terms, everyone knows how much they've contributed, how much they're taking as a result in terms of profit. If there are losses, how do we share the loss as well? So that's a possibility. So literally just working through the structure and then presenting it to a lawyer who draws up an agreement, and then that's it. It's done. It's so easy, so simple. You just have to spend that extra bit of money to make sure you have your legals, and there's always a paper trail. The amazing thing about the UK government as well is, apart from the robust legal system, there's that freedom of information as well. If I set up a company today, you can track me, you can Google me, you can find me on companies I know where I'm running to. So is the next investor, the next developer. Where people need to be careful is where they're not able to trace. There's no traceability or accountability. And I love what you said. Not everyone is after your money. Not everyone has, a lot of us that have integrity, and we're happy. It's like integrity for the money. In fact, so I'm so happy we're having this discussion. I just want to encourage people out there. Look to work with people. Look to start trusting people, and make money together. You look at the other races and the other tribes, and we see how far they've gone. Can I just share stats very quickly? I saw this. It was a stats that came out 2020 about home ownership and race, and it says in the United Kingdom, it's about 68% of United Kingdom are house owners, so households that actually own their own homes, and then they break it down into races. So the white people, the white British, was about 65 or 63, and then the Asian, actually not Asian, Indians was 75, or maybe some. It was in the 70s, either 75 or 78, and then the Black Africans was 20%. When I saw that stuff, I wanted to die. I literally was like, "What is this? Like, how can this be possible?"
Yeah.
And I go back to the fact that the reason why the Indians will be 70 something is because it's literally down to collaboration, working together, having each other's, doing it together, collaborate. That's the secret. And until we get up, when we're still going to be at the 20%.
Okay, all right. So some real important issues being raised there to move us forward as a people. Some really important issues to be raised there. Two things I want to say. First of all, this is my show, so I'm going to do a shameless plug here. If you are looking for a lawyer to help you in relation to this, I must recommend my law firm, Augustine Clement Solicitors in Lewisham. So if you just Google us, www.augustineclementsolicitors.com, we will help you set it all up. You won't have any problems. We will set it all up for you to make sure that you don't get ripped off. One of the reasons why a lot of our people get ripped off is because they don't have any legal agreements. They don't have any legal paperwork. They don't get any legal advice. We don't, as a people, understand the importance or appreciate the importance of professional services. We don't. It will save you money. It will save you time. How much is it going to cost you? If a lawyer is going to cost you, worst case scenario, let's say $2,000, and it's going to save you from being ripped off to the tune of $30,000, it is a no-brainer. So make sure that you get legal advice. Whether it's property or any other aspect of business, get legal advice. And we are more than happy to help you. We own a commercial law firm, and we're happy to help you. The second thing I wanted to say is I'm going to put my Christian hat on now. I'm a leader in the Christian community, and I work a lot with pastors, very, very closely with pastors. And one of my gripes with pastors is the fact that they are in a position to influence people in such a way that can move them forward financially, and they don't do it. So if you are a pastor and you're listening, can I encourage you that your church should set up a company and get your members involved in property development? Get your members involved in property development. This is so important. We must get our people financially free. It is a tragedy and a travesty. And that statistic that you gave, Bimbo, that statistic is reflected in every other area of business. That we're sitting at the bottom of the pile, and there is no excuse for it. There really is no excuse for it. It is literally a matter of a lack of knowledge, not being financially literate, not having the right kind of mentors, and not having an environment where we can flourish financially. And again, I'm addressing all the pastors, please, or faith leaders. You are in a position to do something. Please do it. Ensure that you have business groups in your church. Ensure that your business groups are heavily involved in particularly property development, because there are very few things that you can invest in that can give you the kind of returns that property gives you. Very few things. All right. Okay. That's my and I've had it. So go on, Bimbo.
Sorry, I was just going to say that do we know that the pastors actually know this? Because I take it that if they don't know, then they don't know that they need that. So maybe perhaps they need to get people like kind of similar to what you do. You go to the churches, teach them, and tell them what they don't know, and then actually have sermons from the pulpit as opposed to just sermons about faith and believing God for a miracle. And actually, God is saying, "I'm giving you the power to create wealth." And you just need to do it.
And this is something that I do with another hat of mine. This is something I do. I go around churches and I do a lot of business seminars and educate them and everything. And you're right. Pastors don't know. That is the truth of it. Some pastors themselves don't know. But if you're listening today, you have no more excuse. The truth that you know, you are responsible for it. So make sure you do something. Okay. So some other quick things I want to talk about before we end the show. Now, where do you source your properties? Kunle, where do you source your properties?
Okay. I've been at it for a while, right? In the past, what I used to do, I'd wait for an estate agent, right?
Okay.
So we call, we've got this property for sale and all that. Or I look at the auction list. At the time I registered in all the auction houses in the UK, so they constantly send me material, and I look through them and then decide on what I want to do. But now, in recent time, I've changed all that, because over years I've developed relationship with a lot of estate agents. So, like the home I live in was not put on the market for sale. I just got a phone call, John, I've got this deal. Can you move? And I said, okay, what is it? He told me. I went and had a look at it, and I said, okay, fine. That same day we closed. Right. So what I found is that a lot of deals don't come out on the internet, or you don't see billboards in front. So and this is the thing Nigerians need to learn. We need to try and relate with people across race. There's a lot of these estate agents. They're English, they're Indians, they're Chinese. We need to make friends with these people. And once they know that you're hungry for it, and you can demonstrate to them you could move, trust me, before anything gets to the auction house, they will put it out to their contacts. That's one thing. And another thing I do, I'm very cheeky about. So I'm driving around the neighborhood. I see a property. I probably drive around it for about 3, 4, 5 months. I scout the property very well. I see that the property is very run down. I see that not so much activity in there and all that. I just get my lawyer to find out who owns that property, write them a letter, say, look, I'm interested in purchasing this property for myself. We see that there's been not much activity done, and a lot of things have not been done. We don't mind having a conversation. Sometimes, the people don't respond, but trust me, 90% of the times I get a response back, and they will ask you, what are you offering? So if the market price is, say, 300, and you offer them, 305, right? It saves them the hassle of calling an estate agent to come and start doing some analysis and all that. They'll take your 305 and they move out of the place, But you know what you want to do. You potentially stand to make about 100,000 profit there. That extra $5,000 is nothing to you, right? And all of that comes with experience. And I try to help people, I say, come, what? Saturday, make your Saturday free. Let me take you around and I show you what I do. And I do that for a lot of people.
And thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that, because not everybody shares the knowledge that they have. So thank you so much for doing that. Now, guys, I hope you heard that. There is an economy behind the economy. So there are things happening behind the scenes.
Right, the economy.
There are things happening behind the scenes. So again, you've got to be in the know. You've got to hook up with people who know what they're doing, that you can learn from. Because, like you said, I mean, that even that little bit of information you've just given can save you literally years of time wasting. So thank you so much for that.
So let me say something quickly. Do correct my indulgence. Now, the other thing I was going to say, a lot of people get scared because they don't have the money. And I tell you, right, the money bit is the list.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is the list. If you have a passion for it and you can find a good deal, right?
Yeah.
Trust me, you don't even have to put a dime down. Just speak to the right persons, right? All they'll do is that, we'll structure a deal for you. You brought this transaction over, right? We will protect you. We'll sign a memorandum of understanding, right? Whatever we make from this development, because, okay, you didn't put that money, instead of sharing 50-50 with you, we give you 25%. If you're able to do 3, 4, 5 of that in a year, you have enough money to start calling the shots in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you hear that, guys? So it's not a myth. It is possible to do. It is possible to do. Again, it's connecting with the right people. I'm so appreciative, guys. I can't thank you enough for the information that you're giving my listeners. So it can be done, guys. I read something recently, and it was saying that you will find that if you are seeking success, you will find that the success you are seeking is also seeking you. The minute you really put your hand to the plow and commit yourself to whatever it is that you are passionate about, the doors begin to open. I mean, I'm a living testimony of this. The minute I said yes to what I believe God wanted me to do by way of business, people I never would have met began to knock on my door. They began to seek me. Opportunities that I never would have been, come across began to find me. So that's really important. Once you've set your mind to it and you've said yes to it and you're willing to go for it and you collaborate with the people that you need to collaborate with, you will find that these things are not as difficult as we think that they are. And these are the things that rich people know. They understand this and we don't. So it's not a matter, if you want to become financially free, it's not a matter of you going to add yet another shift to your already overburdened shift. There are smarter ways of working, guys. There's smarter ways of making money, and I'm really hoping that this program is beginning to enlighten you and to, make you think bigger. We have to begin to think bigger and think differently. Okay, all right, we're nearly there. So I just want to quickly ask, Bimbo, what mistakes have you made along the way that our listeners can avoid making?
Mistakes. Well, some of the mistakes I've made would be down to I don't. So far, what I consider to be a mistake, I've kind of turned it around. So, okay, a good example was this property deal that I did, and I did my research, I did my due diligence. I was quite sure what I thought the value would be. So we went into the deal, and then the deal didn't go exactly as planned, and then it was undervalued. So obviously that hurt a little bit because the intention for that particular property was to develop it and sell it and make a profit. So because it was, we wasted a bit of time, it costed us a bit of money. So what we then did, we just changed the strategy. So mistakes would be, property being undervalued, running out of time, using contractors, didn't quite. That's another one actually. I used a contractor. It was my first time of using them, and the only thing I went by was their ratings online. But it was a disaster in the end because they wasted us a lot of money. They wouldn't listen to some of the instructions we gave them. We had to redo things over and over again. That was a big mistake. But I think overall, when such things happen, I just changed strategy. If I was going to sell for a profit, then I just retain and remortgage and take as much as I can get out at that point in time, and then rent it out. So with property, the opportunities for you to you will make mistakes, definitely. But you've got to find a way to mitigate that or change your strategy. And that's one thing I love so much about properties, because if it was another asset class, you make a mistake, you lose money, you're out of the game. With property, you have that, you just change your strategy. You look to do something differently.
Okay, Clement.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you two instances, and I'll be very quick about them. The first one, I bought this property. It's a semi-detached house, right? But the person I was going to buy the property, I bought the property from, he had done an extension to the house, right? And the extension he did was to the side, so he created an additional dwelling, a one bed house. So in essence, I purchased two properties for the price of one, right? But this is the mistake I made, right? I did not do my research because there's a lot of things that go into real estate. I did not do my research in terms of finding out, okay, this job that this guy did, was the council willing to regularize the fact that he did the work illegally?
Okay.
Right? So there's what they call a UDP. Every borough has got its UDP, Urban Development Plan, right?
Yeah.
So if I'd known, I would have studied to have seen that, oh, hang on a minute, this guy has done the work, but the council would not regularize it. I wanted to buy the property and have it as two separate properties so I could sell them as two separate houses, walk away with about 200,000, in the kitty. But the council for like about 6 years, they fought with me. 6 years, and they said, no, it has to be one dwelling. But luckily for me, David Cameron came into power and he changed a lot of the legislation, and that was in my favor. So I was very lucky. But that was a big mistake I made on my own part. And the other one was a near miss. I was going to buy a piece of land in East Finchley, and I saw it was 180,000, and it came with planning permission for 4 flats. And I put down the initial down payment, and I said, okay, I'd get the paperwork done and all that. But something in my mind just kept on telling me, young man, calm down. And I kept wondering why, but only for me to go there the following day, and I saw that there was a massive cemetery of land. Now the thing is, you build it, but nobody would want to live in there.
Yeah,
massive cemetery. But so the lesson I learned there is, don't just go in the evening when it's dark. Go in the daytime. Go in the morning. Go in the afternoon and see. Yeah. That was a near mistake I almost made. Well, thank you.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much for that. Just want to do a quick shout out to some of the people who are watching, some of our listeners and those who are watching. Archie Hammond, thank you so much for watching. SK Nasirudi, I hope I pronounced that properly. Thank you so much for watching. Abronoma Akos, thank you also for joining us on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the show. Can we just have a quick, how do we get hold of you? How do our listeners get hold of you? Because I'm sure people are going to start contacting you. So how do we get hold of you? Even, do you want to go first?
One of the things that I should have mentioned actually in the course of the show was I run an investment club where people come in with £10,000 to invest, and I think that's where we talked about the power of collaboration and teamwork, and just rather than have your money sitting in an account where it's doing nothing, let it start working for you. So that's something that I do. I'm happy to take inquiries on that. I can be contacted I'm on Instagram, so I'm on Instagram, Bimbala Saige. I'm on Facebook, Saige. I'm happy to drop my email address as well on the chat. I don't know if you have a chat actually. I can be contacted on my phone as well. I'm quite happy to be contacted anyway. Email, phone call, Instagram.
Okay, cool. If you just quickly WhatsApp Archie, he will post it online. All right, cool. How can we get hold of you?
Yes, telephone number and email address. I'd WhatsApp Archie now so that Archie can put that up as well.
Cool. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us again. It has been such a pleasure, such a really informative show. I will be definitely becoming a mentee, so watch out for me as well. I hope you enjoyed the show, and let's hear your views on it. And once again, I want to thank my wonderful guests, Bimbo, Sage, and Kune. Thank you. I'm grateful. Thank you for all the information.
Thank you for having me over.
And we wish you all the best.
Nice
So we'll see you this time next week.
I'll try and get Bimbo's details off you as well, if you don't mind, Bimbo.
Of course.
Yes, please.
All right. So we'll be here again next week, Tuesday, 1:30. Don't miss it. Tell others, tell a friend to tell a friend. And remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur. And the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Thanks for listening.